Hello and welcome. I have got the most amazing guest with me today. But first of all, just to say, it's me, Robin Harris of Equenergy Wellbeing Naturally, and coming live to you here on the Wild Wisdom Wellbeing group. And this guest today on the guest slot is the wonderful Diana Coldman, the quantum shaman. And Diana and I have known each other for a while now, connected originally, I believe, through horses, but also Reiki, energy work, because Diana does so many amazing and wonderful things that we probably won't get through it all today.
Doubt it.
But, yeah, so obviously, Diana, you've been doing healing, teaching, guiding others, doing such a wide range of different things for over 20 years now, and hopefully we'll be able to touch on at least some of those. But really, I've invited you on today because of all that's going on in the world at the moment, and I know that you have a lot of perceptions of what that is, what it's really telling us, what this shift is that's going on at the moment. You've been able to pick up on this a lot through your intuitive senses and so much more. So I was hoping that maybe you could give our viewers, all the people who will be watching this video, a little bit of information that hopefully will help us to feel we have some sense of clarity, we have some sense that things are working out. You know, we are going somewhere with this. There is a direction, there is a loving guiding hand behind even the crazy things that are happening. And that, you know, because I'm hearing things like we're doomed and the world is falling apart, and I just want to send out a reassuring message to people as well that actually hang in there. Good things are coming. This is a time of shake-up, but shake-up can be good too. It can clear the way for lots of other exciting things. So maybe if you would start to talk a little bit about the things that you've been looking at, so the ascension, the shift of the ages, from your quantum shamanic perspective. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you, Robin, for inviting me on. And yeah, we have known each other for quite some time now, and horses being the common theme. I mean, my background, if I sort of explain a little bit about my background, just to give the audience a bit of understanding of where I'm coming from, and then absolutely addressing what you've just been talking about, because I think regardless of what we're actually involved in, I think, you know, we're all very much on this teetering on what the heck is going on, and some clarity and understanding I think would be good. So really just to give your audience a bit of comfort as to, well, you know, who am I, what do I know about it, and so my background. I mean, you mentioned in the intro that, you know, I've had 20 years experience. I've originally from after a sort of very big corporate career, which I left after a bit of a pivotal moment, I really moved into coaching, and specifically spiritual coaching. And this is true even today, that people, when they come for that type of interaction, the questions are often like, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm about, like the very common, who am I? So, you know, so that's really where my background and my sort of connection is, the sort of the base level, if you like. And from that, I've added other things over the years. In terms of, you know, you've introduced me as the quantum shaman, so perhaps I should give some clarity around what does that actually mean. In actual fact, it's I'm going to go with the shamanic aspect first. My journey into shamanism occurred when I actually created my first shamanic drum, and that was actually in the middle of a forest in Sussex. And the teachings that I received that weekend really were quite pivotal. I didn't recognize it at the time, but afterwards you become aware of how pivotal that is. And I'd always had an interest in other things. I've already been, you know, I'm a Reiki master, and I work with crystals as well. So understanding energy is the basis of everything. And, you know, shamanism is really understanding, and it doesn't matter which part of the world you go to, Indigenous peoples understand and know that we are living in an energetic universe. So, and the drum, why that's pivotal for not just me, but I teach people how to birth their own drums, is that the sound of a drum, the rhythm, when you're using a drum beater and you're beating a drum, it's creating a vibration on the surface of the drum, which creates a sound. And that's the sound we hear. So it's the basis of that is that it's a vibration. It's an energy, and we are composed of energy. And, you know, so even looking at it sort of from a quantum perspective, I actually I was given this really terrific explanation. And I think it's a great one, which I think some of your audience will probably enjoy and want to use as well. When you actually look at, you know, human beings and what we're composed of from a clinical perspective, sort of bodily systems, you know, circulation, digestion, reproduction, there's 9 of them. I'm not going to go through all 9. But when you then break that down, well, what are those systems composed of? They're composed of groups of tissues. So what are those groups of tissues composed of? Well, they're composed of cells. So when you start looking at what are those cells composed of, you think there's the nuclei. Then you go even further. What are those nuclei composed of? And they're particles. And what are those particles composed of? And actually, the quantum scientists have discovered that they're composed of vibration. So we are a living form of energy that is vibrating, and the universe, everything is composed of energy. So that's really the basis of both the shamanic one. Hello, good morning, everybody. Just seeing some comments coming in.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of them just says Facebook user. Tammy, we can see that that's you. Thank you so much for joining us. But if the other Facebook user would like to introduce yourself, that would be wonderful too. Sorry, Diana, please.
That's okay. That's absolutely fine. So my work really, and the reason I came up with the quantum shaman, I'd actually been several years, had been working as the life whisperer. And again, that talks of, you know, even speech is a vibration, it's a sound. This is how I work, very intuitively. I'd literally woken up one morning and I was sitting in bed having a cup of tea, and I heard the word quantum shaman. And this is how I receive information. It's often auditory, and sensing. I'm very intuitive and clairsentient, and I want to talk about those gifts in a while, because I think that will help people through this time. But I've learned over the years that that's really important because I was in that quiet, relaxed state, and I just heard the word the quantum shaman, and I just said out loud, "Oh, I like that." And my husband said, "What?" I said, "Oh, I like that a lot." And he went, "What?" I said, "The quantum shaman." And so we just had this sort of like moment, just sitting there having a cup of tea, and it's like I know that is what my work is about. So stepping into the quantum. How can I put this? I go to bed reading quantum physics books because I can't sit here and talk to you about the math. Forget it. If you ask me to do a calculation, I'm not Albert Einstein, but I know intuitively and I understand about the quantum field. So my work really now is I think of all the things that I do, including the Reiki and the healing and the crystals. I use it as a toolbox. So when people come to me, I have this toolbox of energy that I can tap into for what's appropriate for that person in that moment. Yes, I run workshops and teachings, but even that, they may be billed as something and that's the basis of it. But even within that, if there's something that comes up during that teaching, that workshop, that course, then that is what needs to be addressed at that time. So that's the basis of my work. So I'm hoping that will give some of your users, you know, a bit of background info. In relation to what's happening now, crikey, where do I start? I mean, you know, it arguably, I don't want to get into the politics of it because that to me can be quite divisive. I want to address what's happening behind that.
Absolutely. I think it's always the what's behind. It's not the surface level where we often focus on that, but there's so much more behind. Just to say quickly, it's Natalie is the Facebook user who's also a Reiki practitioner. So fantastic to have you on board, Natalie.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Natalie. That is brilliant. I'll keep checking the comments. So in terms of what's happening now, I mean, I'd actually written a couple of notes just as sort of memory joggers. If I look at it from at a cosmological perspective, in other words, let's go out into the universe for a minute, and the Earth itself is moving through a part of the galaxy, okay? And it's also going through, because of the way the Earth moves, it moves on its axis on a wobble, and it's called the Pre-Sessional Cycle, and that takes thousands of years to complete. And it's what the Mayans and other indigenous tribes have talked about for years, that we are moving into the sixth age, the shift of ages. You'll come across so many terms, but effectively it's all referring to the same thing, that the Earth is moving into a particular part of the galaxy. Now that central photon belt, photon being, light, the Earth is being absolutely blasted with photon light at the moment. And I'm just assuming that a lot of your audience will probably be familiar, you've got a Reiki practitioner and other people that are used to energy. So all humanity is experiencing the effects of that. Whether you're aware of energy or not, you're going to be feeling it. And I want to address and talk and go into some of those symptoms in a minute of how that may be being experienced by several people. But when you look at how the Earth itself is moving, it is the central galactic point of the galaxy, and as I say, this belt of photon light. Now, astrologically, I'm not an astrologer. I would highly recommend, if people really want to get more of an understanding on the astrological aspects, is to go to pamgregory.com, and I don't know, some of your users may already know of her. Absolutely nails it spot on. She understands what's going on astrologically. But the major one that I want to refer to is what actually happened on the 21st of December, which was the Winter Solstice, which, again, some of you may be familiar with. And that's when Jupiter and Saturn conjuncted. I'm not sure whether that's
grammatically conjunction of.
Conjunction of, thank you. My grammar is not what it used to be.
Create a new word, it's great.
Yeah, let's create. We are creators, and that's absolutely, we are creators, and that I also want to try and get into that. So that honestly, Robin, there's just so much to cover. So, and I'm very happy for any comments. If people have a question, I would highly recommend, if you do have any questions, please just ping them up and I'll see what we can do. But the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is really heralding a new age. And we are moving from our DNA itself is being upgraded. So, other spiritual teachers talk about the crystalline, moving from carbon to crystalline. And it's all about light. It's all about the movement of energy within us. But as a collective, and from that quantum perspective, it's also interdimensional. So we are living in this 3D plane of existence, okay? But where we're moving to is actually creating, we are creators, but we're moving through a different, I'm going to say timeline. From a quantum perspective, there are multiple timelines. And what's happening now and what we're witnessing is the merging of those timelines. If you think of it like a row of railway tracks, anybody that lives near London will know Clapham Junction is perhaps one of the busiest junctions in the UK, where there's all these, merging tracks that are coming into this particular junction. And from a cosmological and quantum perspective, those train tracks are all merging. Some people may even be experiencing major déjà vu or feeling that they are having to address things that they thought they'd already gone through and dealt with. And this is one of the big issues that are coming up. That could be in terms of relationship, it could be in terms of career, it could be lineage, family stuff that's coming up to be addressed. So all these things, it's like, why is this happening? Well, I thought I dealt with that, but now it seems to be coming around again. So those are the sort of things that are coming up for people that we need to recognize that this is culminating into a different interdimensional space. And we're all moving into that higher energy. Okay. What do I want to say? I want to actually talk about some of the symptoms that people may be feeling. But I also talk about that from a personal perspective, some of the symptoms that I've been working on this stuff for years, but even some of the symptoms that I'm having to address. It's a question I'm going to ask your audience. How many of you have been feeling really, really tired, like exhausted? Doesn't matter, either interrupted sleep or wanting to sleep for hours, or even if you've slept for hours, waking up feeling like you're still exhausted. Okay. Physical aches and pains that you cannot understand where they've come from. It's not like you've run a marathon or anything, but physical complaints, buzzing in the ears, high pitched. And if people have suffered from tinnitus, is one thing, but this is like intermittent buzzing in either ear or both. Okay.
We've got a resounding yes from Tammy.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you, Tammy. So I hadn't actually looked at that. Thank you. These are all symptoms of what are called ascension symptoms. Because we are being flooded with light and upgraded as an energy being, these are ways, the vibration and the sound of the universe is that we're absorbing that, and we're having to go through a physical adjustment as well as a psycho-spiritual adjustment. So I cannot tell you how many people that I know have been experiencing this sort of thing. Equally, I'm not saying it's all bad. Equally, it could be that you're seeing an explosion of what I call your psychic gifts, your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience. It's like, how many of us now can actually read or watch what's going on in the world and know inside that that is not true, something else is happening? So it's when we ignore those things that things don't work for us. So it's actually looking at, okay, so what the heck is going on? So when we look at that at the physical level, or I'm going to say the 3D level, as I say, I don't want to address the politics per se, but what I do want to say, definitely with the tiredness. And I've suffered with the tiredness myself. Literally wanting to sleep for like 12 hours or more, and not even wanting to turn a computer on or look at my phone. I just haven't had the energy to do it. So trust that your physical body is having to go through this transformation. Trust the process. But addressing what's happening, not on the political scene per se, but Earth itself has been, I'm trying to choose the word that I want to use. For thousands of years, humanity has been hijacked by a darker agenda of other energy beings that are either already here or have been, who are in the wings. Okay. I am not talking about our angelic guides and any spiritual guides that we have. I'm talking about darker forces that have held sway and are behind the darker agenda that you are seeing playing out right now. And the shift of the ages is where the crumbling of that dark agenda is happening globally in order for us to ascend into this new 5D consciousness. I hope I'm making sense to people here, but it is it is the ultimate shift of ages. Okay. Sorry, Stu. Yes, heart hug to you. Oh, bless you for that.
Is that Hanker?
Oh, heart hug.
Heart hug. Yeah, heart hug is a phrase that Heimke often uses.
Ah,
Heimke
right.
Moll, who
Okay.
uses T-touch and
Oh,
lots of other things. She's a
I love,
previous guest on
yeah,
the guest slot.
I love that term. I love
Isn't
that.
it
Heart hug.
wonderful?
It's
She
lovely.
actually taught us on when she was a guest. She taught us how to do a heart hug while she was on.
Yeah, that is lovely. And actually, I'm going off piste here a bit, but that's great because, and I'm sure whoever that is understands about the coherence of our heart and
Yes.
how, you know,
Yes.
yeah, so it's probably about that. And I would absolutely go with that. And being, this is how we get through this, is going into our heart space and, you know, having that heart coherence. Sorry, I'm just getting notifications, so I'm going to dismiss that. Excuse me.
And I definitely think that this is a time when we're being called to tune in to our intuition so much more and
Absolutely.
to listen, because when you look at the world and you think, I don't know what to trust anymore because scientists can't agree, the governments can't agree, you know, it's all kind of coming against each other. There's
Yeah,
all of that going on. So I think it's really a call to just go within, trust your gut, go with what your intuition is telling you and follow that.
absolutely. This is, despite what's going on globally, it is a personal journey. And that's one,
Yes.
it is very much a personal journey. Collectively, we are moving, as I say, into a 5D realm, into a 5D consciousness. But the way we do that is through a personal journey.
Yeah.
So every one of us is having to go through this. A lot of people have not realized or recognized this yet. And, you know, it's going to take a while for that to happen. But ultimately, it is going within and trusting our intuition. And I'm pointing to my heart space because it is actually about that. And we have to go within and address things that we need to address, spiritually, and then help. And only by doing that, it's almost like that's how we get through this. That's how we as a collective get through this. And that's how we walk into this new era. And I mean, it is the most, despite the appearances, this is the most amazing, beautiful, synchronistic, quantum energy experience that humanity has ever had.
And another comment there, that compassion is needed right now, which again is very much a heart chakra. And I'm very passionate about compassion for ourselves as well. We need to forgive ourselves on a deep, deep level and be compassionate towards the things that we do that maybe then, oh, have I made a mistake? Have I got that wrong? And that may be judgment that we've taken on board from outside. So it's very much trying to be compassionate and gentle and understanding and feeling our way through this, knowing that we don't have the answers at this stage. On some level, our soul self does, but we in our physical 3D form don't. So be compassionate with that, be gentle, be understanding, be loving, be caring.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And also compassion for others. And this is where, we're seeing conflict and, polarity. And one of the compassion is a great way. We need compassion for others. The differences of opinion are just rife. Doesn't matter what social media platform you're using, it's just rife everywhere. So we need to be compassionate with ourselves and also compassionate with others, wherever they are on their journey, because it is a personal journey. And I mean, my role, I feel, perhaps similar to other, the audience here, is that we're here to help others through this as well. But we can only do that when we've done it ourselves.
And I think it's by doing it for ourselves, because like you're saying, it's just shifting our energy. And as soon as we shift our energy, it's that ripple in the pond, isn't it? And it just sends it out.
Absolutely. That vibration is being, emitted. And it is like throwing a stone in a pond and watching that ripple out. I would say just, absolute compassion, be kind to yourself. And if you need to sleep for 12 hours, then sleep for 12 hours. One of the things you can do to really ease the symptoms is Yeah,
Completely
absolutely.
agree with that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Is I'm going to talk about getting out and earthing yourself, because Mother Earth, what we have to remember, it's not just humanity. Mother Earth, Gaia, whatever you want to call this amazing, you know, globe that we're living with, it is energy, and she's going through it as much as we are. Okay, so one of the ways you can help, if you need to raise your energy, not necessarily today as Storm Christoph is raging through this island, but I encourage everybody to get out and get in nature, and if you can, earth yourself, physically earth yourself. When all this kicked off last March, April, I was spending a lot of time just going down where we live, going down to the stream when I was feeling really low and emotional, and allowing that to come up and come out, and allowing the stream to wash all those tears away. But standing barefoot in the earth is one of the best things you can do right now, despite the cold. Oh, have we got some feedback there? Oh, don't know what happened there. I was getting some feedback. So, I mean, if I explained, on the solstice, I did a drumming ceremony, a personal drumming ceremony here, because I wanted to celebrate that moment of Jupiter and Saturn conjunction and that vibration around that. And there's a particular tree that I connect with, and I stood under it. And despite the fact that I live on farmland and it is deep mud at the moment, I took my boots and my socks off and I stood barefoot in the ground. Yes, my feet were freezing, but it's amazing. Once you get beyond that, I just started to drum. I was facing the sun because it was the sunrise, and I just continued drumming. And when you get beyond that cold, you actually feel that Mother Earth herself is warm. And there was this warmth that then traveled up and just surrounded me. And it was the most beautiful, precious, individual. It was a heart hug. There you go, a heart hug from Mother Earth, and that was really, really special. So I would encourage anybody that is going, really going through some physical stuff, is to get out as much as you can and connect with Mother Earth. Go hug a tree. Go. I mean, they are perhaps the largest, tallest beings on the planet. Go down to a river. There's lots of water around right now. So, go out and connect with nature. We can talk about spirit animals. If there's a particular, watch the birds, connect, see what comes to you, see what animal wants to interact with you right now. Then look up what is the energy of that animal, what might the message be from that particular animal. And even down to a practical level, put out some food for the birds. See what birds come into your garden. And just connecting with the energy of nature is really, really going to help right now. So that's
definitely. There's been a lot of birds around recently, hasn't there? Yes. Certainly here. I mean, we have a lot of birds anyway, but particularly as well this morning, even though we've got this storm going on, the songs from the birds when I was up in the fields was amazing. And Tammy's just saying here that she finds going for a walk each day really helps her and the children, and that that then helps them to be more relaxed, just the fact that they've got out of the house.
Yeah, and absolutely.
I completely agree. Getting into nature, it's obviously a big thing, a thing that I'm really, really passionate about. And that grounding, I think a lot of us spend so much time in our headspace anyway, but at the moment when everything has gone online, it's very headspace, it's very cerebral. We're analyzing things all the time. We really need to get back into our bodies as well. And that whole grounding is so particularly essential because of all that's going on and the times we're living in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the grounding, but it's also and then utilizing, tapping into how that energy is, how you're going to utilize that energy. Going out and getting that help is one thing, but how are you going to operate on a day-to-day basis? It's whatever information, you're absolutely right, it's so cerebral at the moment, and online and in the house and everything. It's finding your way through that maze, right, and trusting your intuition and your other gifts. So how do you receive that information?
Yes.
So for me, when I hear truth, I get it. It's like someone has just sort of pinged an arrow and it hits me right in the middle of my chest. And it is like, ping, right, I know that is the truth. Equally, when something feels off, when I hear something or I see something and I think that is not something, is I don't know what it is, but I know something isn't right about that, I get it as a sensation just under my chest, sort of on my rib cage. Now, there isn't much in terms of distance, there isn't much change, but there's a difference in the vibration. So it's understanding and how we receive information and what that information is telling us. Like, one of the easiest ways to recognize, if you hear something or you see something and you get flooded with goosebumps, right? That's a classic one, is, whoa, hang on a minute, that's important, that resonates. And we actually say the term, don't we? That resonates with me. These are the things that are going to be these, I'm not even going to say gifts. They've always been there, but they're going to be heightened as we move into this or move through this ascension process. These ways of operating are going to become even more important.
And that's why I think that's why I think it's so important to get back into our bodies, because it's our bodies that give us that wisdom. It's the different vibrations they share with us, the different messages, the different feelings that we get. So when we're tuned in, when we're grounded, when we're listening with every cell. Absolutely. So not just listening with our ears, but listening with, every cell, but also with our energy, with our intuition, with our feeling, with our gut, because we're now really beginning to understand the gut has such wisdom, such intelligence, such ability to discern.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about, our gut instinct, for crying out loud. The terminology is there. It's not rocket science.
We've had that wisdom all along. You talked about the indigenous peoples and the ancients. They knew these things, and it's been passed down to us, but we have been kind of sidetracked and gone into the scientific and the Newtonian, and therefore lost the understanding that these metaphorical terms that we use are real. They're not just a nice little idiom.
No, absolutely. It's interesting, you talk about Newtonian physics, and it's like, which is still taught in universities and everything. The quantum physics is really where it's at, and academia is very, very slow to start utilizing that, but this is part of what I call the deeper agenda that's going on behind the scenes. Is that what we are witnessing, there's going to be, I'm going to call it, the veil is being lifted, and this is where we're at right now. Is the veil of everything that has been hidden from humanity is being revealed, and that's what feels crunchy. That is what feels like unbelievable. Like, no, this is what governments and the control agenda has been happening for decades and hundreds and even thousands of years. This is now, it cannot last, because Earth is moving into this quantum realm that is light, and where there's light, the dark cannot exist. And that's the comfort I want to give people that may be feeling, I'm seeing what's playing out and thinking, where on earth is this leading? Where are we going with this? I want to say, I'm putting it on the line here, that we are moving into the light, but we can only do that when we've highlighted the dark. Okay, so it's a bit like going into a room at night time. You either flick a switch, don't you, and turn the light on, or if you're going outside in the dark, you've got a torch, because you can't see unless you highlight things. So all the stuff that's crumbling around us, know that it's there in order for us to individually, going within, but collectively as humanity, bear witness to that crumbling. The societies, the governments that are crumbling, let it happen. It's going to happen, and we are finding through this, humanity will be finding new ways. I actually wrote about this. I might send it over to you, Robin, and then if you wanted to share it with your networks, that's great. It's a parable that I wrote back in, I think it was 2011, 2012. Okay, and it was written as a parable, and yet so many things are now coming to fruition. And even that, it's like we are going through the eye of the storm, which I think is rather poignant considering the storm that we've got at the moment. And by the way, has anybody twigged this particular storm is called Christoph, which is the Christ. So we are going through the eye of the needle right now. We are going through, even from a biblical perspective, the crunch point of everything at the moment. It's like, if you think of it, I'm sure there are probably viewers that have got horses like you, Robin, and think of it like an abscess. When your horse has got an abscess, right, it gets worse and worse, doesn't it? And it's horrible to witness, and then it pops. This is where we're at right now. The destruction of everything that cannot go into this new 5D realm has to be exposed, so that we collectively can lift each other up and walk through this time. So I'm talking quite spiritually here, but I'm trying to give it in a way that sort of comes across realistically.
I think that always any change is a challenge. Any birthing of the new, as any mother will know, is painful, uncomfortable, difficult, challenging, long. As you're going through it, it feels very long. But there are, like the goddess Kali that our cat was named for, is destruction in order to make space for the new to come. Trees fall and make a huge crash and mess to allow space for new trees to grow. It's just a part of the process, and we're at a stage now where this is happening very, very fast, actually, but very intensely. And because it hasn't happened to this kind of intensity, certainly not in our lifetimes, for us to remember and go, it was okay before, it'll be okay now. And so it is really trying. It sure does feel long from Tammy.
Well, it does. Yeah, can I just address that, Tammy? I think, you know, when all this kicked off, like, you know, when the UK, last March, I think it was, when first lockdown happened, it seems like it's been a long time. But I think what we're seeing now, I think the shift that we're witnessing is that things are going to speed up. Things are going to happen really, really quick, that we won't be almost able to keep up with what the hell's happening. It could be, you know, hours and something else would change. And then, you know, even in the past week, you know, it is speeding up. There's, you know, the Italian government, Merkel resigning, you know, there's lots of things happening. If you actually join the dots, you'll see how things are speeding up. I know there are spiritual... And that's maybe, you know,
that's maybe in a way why it feels so fast, because things are happening all one after the other, whereas before we might have had a change and a pause and a change and a pause. Now it's change.
It is, and it's going to get even faster. Personally, it is only my personal view from things that I've looked at and people that I've listened to. I think certainly, where are we? The 20th of January. You know, the next couple of months we'll see a huge difference. Give it another couple of months, and I think there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. So I would just say, please bear with it. It does feel long and arduous, but the energy of 2021 is different to 2020. 2020, if you think about it, is clear vision, and that's the metaphor. That's the metaphorical message for everybody, is to, you know, get clear about what's going on. 2021 is now it's happening. It's almost like we're out of the starting gate, now it's crumbling and the new is coming through. So it's really just to give you that comfort. And also I wanted to go back, I'm just seeing in the background this particular drum I want to show, because I birthed it on the solstice. So do you mind if I just get it just to show people? It's the solstice. I don't know how well this will come out. I'll do it that way. Okay. So this is a shamanic drum that I birthed. That way. So I'm never very good at doing this the other way around. And I really just want to, the reason I bring it up now is I just want you to think about this. That big star is there to represent Jupiter and Saturn, the bright star in the sky. And really the darker area across the middle of the drum is really representing the area of the galaxy that we're now moving through. This is the photon belt. We are being flooded with light. So it's representative of the journey that Gaia and us are all going through right now. So I hope that everybody can see that.
I certainly can, yeah. Can we have just a little bit of a listen?
Yes, hang on, let me just get
even just to hear the vibration of the drum, to hear its voice.
Let me just move that out. And on the back, let me show you the back. That's how it's and what's interesting there, I've got on the other side, there's Jupiter and Saturn, and there's also images of holly, because it was on the winter solstice, and I wanted to represent that that was the moment that it was birthed. Okay, so let's see. It's not used to being in this room, so I just need to make sure that it, because I use natural hide, so they are extremely temperature sensitive. It's not used to being in my office, but it should work. Let's see. I don't know how this is going to come out over the, but we'll see. Slightly flat, I think, but did that come across at all, Robin?
It did, yes. Yeah. And yes, we have to allow for the fact that it wasn't as it would be hearing it live.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love hearing drums.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's my thing. Drums are my thing. Let me just pop that back. Make sure it doesn't fall off. So being what it was actually anything but clear. Yes, I'm loving this conversation with Tammy here. The irony of 2020 here, when it was actually nothing but clear. That's very true, actually. This year we will. I think the difference is those of us who understood it did see it, but I think this year it will become obvious to everybody.
And for me, the clarity was not so much as in the world had clarity, but rather that we were being challenged to find our own.
Yes.
We were being challenged to trust our intuition, and that is our clarity.
Yes.
When we can really tune in, understand the vocabulary of our intuition, of our body, of the messages that we're getting, and following those, it was, I think, a challenge to step into a new clarity, a clarity that isn't the trust of the media and the governments and the scientists, but our own clarity, finding that for ourselves. That's what it meant to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think on a wider perspective, I think things will become clear for the population much more this year. I mean, things are speeding up, and we are going through it. What did you have any particular questions, Robin? Because I know that obviously this was part of it, but I'm not sure whether you had any specific questions of your own that you wanted to address.
It was really just to talk to you about all of the things that you're doing that are so pertinent to this time. And just going back to what you were saying on the clarity, I think it's again a part of that ripple in the pond. The more that we can find our own clarity and step into that, the more that it's that thing of, I give myself permission to do that, to trust myself, rather than always looking outwards, knowing that it's quite a lot of chaos out there at the moment. I will look inwards and find my clarity, which then gives everybody else permission. You can actually have an individual clarity and you can follow that. and then it becomes the collective as all the dots begin to join up. On your drum, you had all the stars kind of represented there, but those are dots. And then we can join those dots as those dots grow and expand and the ripples move out. If you have a rain, at the moment we have plenty of this, and as you see it falling on water, the ripples expanding out and starting to overlap with one another and join up and form bigger circles. And to me, that's kind of what it's like. And I love the way nature gives us all of these analogies and representations that we can look at and kind of then, oh, that makes sense if I can apply that in this area.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the other things I focus quite a lot on in my work, I call it sovereignty. And I did have a social media debate over that word a few weeks ago with someone. I term it as standing in our sovereignty as a human being. We are, as energy beings, we are the most glorious part of this cosmos. That that we have decided to be in this space, in this realm, here now. And when we stand in our sovereignty as a human being, I'm not talking about, it's not about having power over. There are three different types of power. There's power over, which is what we're seeing with governments and agencies around the world, where they have power over. Power under manifests in a different way that often comes through lack of self-confidence and lack of self-worth. So that's power under, when you're relying on others to draw your energy from, etc., and for always seeking that confirmation. Power with is when we stand within our own glorious, energetic, lighted being and say, I am a sovereign being of the universe. And if there's one affirmation, I work with affirmations a lot, there's one affirmation I would really recommend people to use, is that I am a sovereign being of the universe. And when you say that and feel that within your body, the resonance, it's nothing, you just resonate with the universe itself. You become part of Gaia, the universe. And then you recognize that we are collectively, we are creators. We are here to, it's not even about writing anything. We are here, we are energy beings, so that we are here in order to feel into that energy, the quantum field, and pull that energy toward us to create what is it we want. We are here to, if you like, ideate and create energy into the form that we want. That is who we are in a nutshell. And I mean, that is a quantum perspective, but it's so blooming simple.
And you talked before about that deep question that people come to you sometimes or often with, who am I? But it's also, for me, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I here, we kind of traditionally, certainly when I was younger, we would talk about, why am I here? What is my purpose? With the idea that our purpose should be something kind of big and magnificent and visible, but also that it had to be to do with doing.
Yes.
Whereas I very much think that our purpose is about being. It's about stepping into the, I call it soul self, but yes, sovereignty of myself as a part of this universe. And I loved, as you said it, and you were talking about that resonance, ooh, I've heard truth. But for me, it's also that resonance of, I have heard something expansive, and expansive in that true sense, and in that I'm not just little me, insignificant, unimportant, it wouldn't matter if I wasn't here, me. I am a part of this jigsaw puzzle. I am a part of this time. I'm a part of this universe. I am, that is my deep belief, that we are each here with our own individual, unique, special, wonderful, precious gifts that were meant to come and shine, allowing that light to be there. Because if I'm not here, and think of all the eons that have gone into, and the chaos that went together to come into this form, and each form for everybody, that was not an accident, that was a synchronicity.
Absolutely.
So each individual is that little part in the jigsaw puzzle, is that bit that if you're not there, oh, what a loss. So the more we can step into that and shine that, and like you say, own the sovereignty of myself as a participating, creative part of this magnificent universe. I'm getting goosebumps.
Exactly. It does get goosebumps. Even you saying it, it is that. I mean, for me, that is the divine. That is the divine made manifest. And there's, I mean, and I think that's, a great way of sort of summing it all, this up. Really, it is the divine made manifest. So the work I do does blend that shamanic and the quantum, but with the practical things that we can do as well. And I hope that, excuse me, I just need to, that's better, is hope that, given your audience a bit of understanding about how to take care, self-care, so important right now, so important. Keep doing what you're doing, earthing, sleeping if you need to, but just allowing yourself to become the observer. So what's happening in 3D realm, if you like, I just encourage people to step back a little. I call it that pause moment, as in Pause, not as in pause of a dog. Sorry. Is take, when you feel that you're getting drawn in or pulled into all that 3D theatre. I call it a theatre because that's all it is a theatrical show that's being played out right now. When you feel that you're getting drawn, or you feel that your energy is take that half step. It's like rock on your heels and take a half step back and turn slightly to one side. And as you do, take that moment to pause and witness and bear witness to what you're seeing. Hang on a minute. I am a creator. I just need to bear witness to how it's all unfolding. I don't need to be pulled into, and what we have to remember is what's happening are all the lower frequencies that are being expelled.
So easy to get drawn in. We've had a comment. It's so true.
It's so true. It is so easy to get drawn in. Let's think about this. The agenda that's being pumped out is fear, 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 fear. Now, fear is one of the lowest vibrational frequencies, right? Anger, blame, all those lower frequencies are going to keep, you've got to learn how to step beyond that and step out of that. So not the only way, but what I'm trying to get across is by just having that pause moment. When you feel your energy dropping, it's okay, what has made my energy drop down? Okay, now I'm going to take that half step back and I'm going to pause. And I'm going to start imagining that I am bearing witness to this. Take it as I'm trying to think of a good term. Think of it as you're a bird of prey. I mean, my major spirit guide is a bird of prey anyway, so which is fab. So it's very easy for me to imagine that I'm just at the top of the tree. That's where the birds of prey live. They live on the eyrie at the top of the tree. Imagine that you've just floated up and you're on the top of the tree and you're just bearing witness to what's happening. It doesn't mean that you have to play in those lower energies. Start playing in the higher frequencies of love, okay, the heart space, the coherence, and wonder, and knowing that the unraveling is happening and we are moving into this higher state of consciousness. That's how we individually and collectively, we move then through this time. But the easiest thing to do is to get drawn into and start playing within those lower frequencies. The more that we do that, the longer it's going to take for this process to happen. So, you know, in answer to sort of questions, you know, when it feels like a long time, how long is it going to take? It's, you know, as light workers, that's the term, light workers, healers, all of us have a real responsibility right now to ensure that our energy and that we're not playing in those lower frequencies. So,
Well,
sorry, go on, Robin.
Just, I think, yes, but when we do get sucked in, it's to have compassion. Going back to compassion.
I agree.
And I love that you talk about playing, because we do need to hold these things lightly, and we need to think about it in terms of play and lightness, and also the play as in the theatre, and not getting sucked into being a character in that play. We want to be a character in our own play. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And my husband has a great saying that kind of applies here as well. It doesn't have to be theatre in terms of, you know, I'm watching a play. It might also be a circus, because what he says is, not my circus, not my monkeys. So anything that we can use as well that brings in humor, which again taps into that idea of playing, that we can laugh with ourselves. Oh, there I go. I'm being sucked into the play again. I'm going to just say, it's not my circus, not my monkeys, and I'm going to take that step back. And going into nature, I think, and again, we're coming back to the nature analogies, your spirit animal as being the bird of prey up in its eyrie. There are so many, and birds, there's so much going on with birds, and they all fly up away from these things. So looking at nature, getting into nature gives us that step back, I think, because it takes us away from our headspace. It takes us away from social media, all of these things that can suck us in, you know, the clickbait stuff that we just...
Absolutely.
You know, you can see how people so easily get sucked into those arguments, and it triggers stuff in us. It presses our buttons, and I want to have a say about that. I know that's wrong, and I know even that's right, and I want to support that side. Yeah,
I'm not immune to that. And I actually just want to pick up on, you know, you're saying about the birds and there's so much going on. You've noticed how much there's so much going on. I think about, you know, my work with in my shamanic work. So I have a lot of my shamanic work has a Native American flavor because I have a Native American guide, and a lot of the teachings that I've had are based on that. And when we consider, oh, hang on, you can probably see on the shelf behind me, I've got feathers in a jar. Okay, so when we in our shamanic work, we talk about I use feathers even in healing. But also, when we understand, we look at Native Americans, for example, when the First Nations were living on the plains, and even now we, you know, it's quite common to imagine a native with a feather, right? One or two. A young brave would have one or two feathers. Now, when you actually look at a feather, it's actually a hollow tube. Okay, so in that culture, what it represents is an antenna. And bearing in mind that the most revered person within the tribe is the chief, who has the enormous headdress full of feathers, because he's the one most full of wisdom. He's got the most antenna around his crown, and through the crown chakra, that is the antenna to universal consciousness. So he's pulling down the wisdom from the universal consciousness. And I think what's going on with the birds at the moment is they inhabit the skies and the heavens. They are the link between us and the consciousness of the galaxy. So they have a lot of information. And I think what we're witnessing is they are very joyful, and it's not even spring yet.
No,
it's
way
not
off yet, really.
You know, it is. You would imagine. You know, it's very common. You know, as the March comes for them, you see all the the young birds, and it's lovely. But it's the middle of January, and I agree with you, Robin. I've noticed that there seems to be a real joyful sound among the birds, and I think that we should take note of that, because that's the wisdom. They're saying, we've done it, guys. We've moved. We're in that space now. So it's a really good way of tapping into that wisdom. And I love, the feather analogy. We are. It's just the antenna to universal consciousness.
And also picking up on the analogy and the another Native American people's belief is that turquoise, which we seem to have coordinated very well on this morning, was the stone that actually joined earth and sky. Because if you look at, say, the horizon over water, looking out to sea, and on certain days when the lighting is right, you can't nearly see the difference between the two, and they are that beautiful azure turquoise blue. So another. Don't you just love these synchronicities and how everything comes together?
I love it. And yes, we're both wearing turquoise. I also wear turquoise because, when I'm speaking, it's the colour of the throat chakra, and that helps to keep my throat chakra
It's communication,
open.
Isn't it?
And I don't know whether you can see, there's my bird of prey.
I have my cat, Pokali.
Your cat. Yeah. So it's lovely, isn't it? Animals,
it is wonderful.
the animals, because the birds and the animals. But I totally, agree with what you're picking up on about the bird song at the moment. I love that. I just think that is amazing.
I had another guest on here, Jules Chabot, and she wrote a book called The Purpose of Species that shared a channeling from each species, not just an individual, but the species and the roles that they play. Because you were saying earlier about us being creators, energetic creators, and very much I think that we as human beings with our creative potential are here to birth that new reality and to vision it and to choose in our sovereignty what that might be, how we're going to use that light and move forward in that light. And I think the animals are here in their groundedness and their stability and strength and collectiveness to hold that space, to share their wisdom with us, and to then support us in that creativity. So again, Gaia, to me, we are human beings. We are made up of cells, as you said earlier, and Gaia globe, which I see as more than just the rocky bit, but all of the systems within that, the birds, the horses, dogs, cats, and trees, rivers, all of it in its many systems is just like another body. It's the micro and the macro and the going out into the universe or down to the quantum level and the atom.
I know. I think as above, so below. It is amazing. And interestingly, we're seeing how this plays out. Don't forget that Gaia herself is manifesting this. Think about the eruptions, and there was that horrific earthquake in Indonesia, I think, a few days ago. So they're eruptions. They're representative of the eruptions that are happening, at every level. Just the physical and what's playing out, politically. Lots of eruptions still come. It's all energy, and
it's all going through a process. In my work, I talk about the well-being process, and sickness, what we call sickness and dis-ease, is actually a part of that process. It's just a part of our learning. And again, what I was saying earlier about the body having messages for us when we have a pain or a twinge or a snuffle or a cough, it's just another part of that process. It's the getting rid of, or whatever it needs to be, whatever our body needs at that time.
Absolutely. So I think I suppose the main message for me is very much about at the moment is becoming the observer and bearing witness, right? And then just holding that space with becoming. So it's an individual journey. Bearing witness, if we do get pulled down, is just being, as you say, showing compassion to ourselves, and then just that pause so that we can say, so I'm getting pulled down into that now, am I? Oh, right, okay. So you're bearing witness to yourself as well as bearing witness to others. I think that is really going to help us going forward for the next few weeks. I do genuinely feel that we will be in a much clearer, better, more aligned time within the next 10 weeks. I feel that feels like I'm just being given that. isn't just trust the process. It will be better within the next 10 weeks. If any users come back and quote me,
yeah. We'll make a date note for that, 20th of January 2021.
Well, now you see, I'm getting goosebumps when I say that, and I feel that from here, I feel that there is like an energy that is saying this is what needs to be known. You will bear witness to how this is unraveling, and Earth and humanity will be in a much better place. So I think that's a good place to conclude on.
I think that's a wonderful place to draw it to a close. Thank you so much, Diana. It's been amazing to hear all of that very intuitive and reassuring and kind of, giving us something to work towards, giving us that understanding that we are the sovereign being in our own life and as a wonderful part of this whole and where we're going from here into the light. So thank you so much. And just I'd like to say that if anybody is watching this and finding that they're struggling a little bit, not sure quite how to work with this energy, I have a simple 4-step guide called My Wild Way to stepping into a higher energy, shifting into a higher energy and starting to feel better right now. And I will share that link in the comments once we've finished this live. So thank you again, Diana, very, very much. And hope you all have a good rest of your day and rest of the week. Bye-bye for now.
Can I just say thank you so much, Robin, for inviting me on. And also, if anybody's curious and wants to check out what I do and look at my website, which is thequantumshaman.net. Okay, so you're happy that you'll see my workshops on there and how you want. If people want to connect with me, then please do. But thank you, Robin, for the invitation. It's been lovely, and I look forward to a time when I can come back and visit you again too.
Oh yes, that would be fantastic. And I will stick that link in the comments below when we're finished this live.
Okay, thank you. Lovely to have met you all. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.